Thanks for tuning in to the advanced version of the chest and back workout for the 24 HD training. Something you have to recognize if you're an advanced trainee, somebody with experience, is due to the maturity of your nervous system, the body, the muscles, as well as the nervous system requires more frequent strategic change. And what do I mean by that? Strategic change is something that's well planned to have a benefit. We're training for a specific benefit. Changing at random and what some so-called experts recommend in terms of changing the workout completely every week does not make sense for a majority of people. We want to have continuity over the course of a 6-week program, but every 2 to 3 weeks I'm changing parameters for advanced clients. That could be the number of repetitions, the number of sets, reducing the rest periods, changing the repetition speeds, changing the grips, certain contractions and so forth. So there's a lot of factors that go beyond the scope of this particular video that I manipulate to produce excellent results for clients. And as many people know, the longer you've been training, the harder it is to make progress in many ways because your beginner's luck is long run out. Again, the nervous system is very mature and adapts very quickly to stimuli. So that's something to consider is, are you entering the gym with a program that's going to help you achieve a particular goal, or are you just kind of going through the motions with something that you're comfortable with? But what we're going to do right now is the same sequence as the prior video in terms of the exercises, but Todd's going to add an extra 1/4 to each rep in the weakest range of motion. So he's going to do a semi-neutral grip, 1 1/4 press. He's going to add a 1/4 in the bottom and then all the way up. The extra 1/4, not only does it add 25% more work for each rep, it's also training the weakest range of motion, because most people are weakest closer to the chest. They're stronger as they get to lockout where the triceps get involved. It increases the length of the sets in terms of the number of seconds. The ideal length of the set depends on the person. Todd has a very mesomorphic build, so he's going to do better with sets that tend to be a relatively lower reps and higher weight load. And somebody who has more of a endurance type of body type will do better with longer sets, which means that they're going to use more reps. So Todd's going to then flip over. That's been about 8 reps, so that's what we're using for this particular example. It could be 4 reps, it could be 6. It really depends on a lot of the individual client needs. Todd's going to transition now to a 1 1/4 press, 1 1/4 supinated chest supported dumbbell row, and he is going to do an extra 1/4 in the top, trying to keep his trap down, something that Dr. Serrano emphasizes all the time in terms of the importance of proper function to train the back correctly and to avoid injury. There are a lot of things that people do with pulling as well as pressing movements that tend to impinge the shoulder and create problems. Also elbow pain that could easily be corrected if they use some of his form tips and other videos that we have on the website. There's nobody better at identifying poor form and fixing injuries than Dr. Serrano, bar none. So the extra 1/4 in the top here helps to recruit the rhomboids and other areas that tend to be neglected. It gets much harder as the set goes on. And that's been about 8 reps here. So Todd would take somewhere around 45 to 60 seconds because he's more neurologically mature. He's going to be using higher loads, so he can't do very minimal rest. And the bench is now going to go to a flat position where he's going to do a 1 1/4 close grip dumbbell press, keeping the elbows tucked in. There's going to be more tricep emphasis in this particular exercise. This is a really good one that I like to use on many arm training days, actually, as kind of a finishing move because it hits the triceps so well. But we're going to do an extra 1/4 on the bottom and then going up, and we're down on a 3 count. You could time the length of the set, and I'm going to tell you it's probably going to be somewhere between 35 and 40 seconds, which is about exactly right based on what we had timed. When I go to gyms across this country and kind of just taking a look and observe, Joe Average who's training, even somebody in pretty good shape, for the most part, their sets are lasting about 20 seconds. So a set that's around 40 seconds is going to feel like an eternity, when you're doing it correctly. And I think we have 2 more there and up. Keeping those elbows tucked in, keeping the emphasis on the tricep, up a 4th, and then we have 1 more rep and we're down 3, and then we'll transition to the 4th exercise in this particular giant set. And we're going to repeat all 4 exercises 3 times in that sequence for a total of 24 reps. That may not be the entire workout. It could be a component of it. We may have exercises before as well as after the sequence, but this would be the main component. So we're going to use a neutral grip, 1 1/4 row. So Todd's getting an extra 4th on top here, keeping his elbows tight. And the tendency is going to be to try and pull the dumbbells to the rib cage, but try and pull the dumbbells a little bit closer to the waistline, and you're going to feel the difference in terms of the difficulty. The leverage is not as good. You have to rely on some muscles which may be a little weaker because you're not using them, or they may be shut down because they're not activated very well. Could be a combination of many factors. But for this particular workout, trying to identify what are common weaknesses that I see, and then what Dr. Serrano tells me to look for very often with patients, would be to pull the dumbbell lower towards the waist to identify some of these weaker areas and fix those weak links to avoid injury. And, lastly, as relates to the advanced trainees, the weight load has a tremendous importance. We didn't talk very much, or we didn't talk at all about the warm-up, and Todd, you can stop there and go back kind of the beginning sequence, because I think that's been more than 8 reps. But to identify the right weight is a question I get very often. It's a good question. The answer is, I don't know. It depends on a lot of individual factors. So what I recommend is performing 1 or 2 warm-up revolutions, picking a weight that you can do, that you think you can do for, 8 reps, for this particular example, whatever you have planned for the particular workout. So starting with gradually lower weights for a set or 2, and then building up to what your first work set is going to be, is the best way to judge the weight load for that particular day. You may have had a bad day, a poor night of sleep, so the conditions, may dictate that the weight load will be lower or higher if it's on a day that the conditions were good. But that first week of a 6-week program, I always tell clients, is one where you're going to establish the proper form, you're going to learn a lot of the new movements and establish the weight loads, and week 2 will run much more smoothly. So consider it's never a perfect process. And then over the course of a 6-week program, it is absolutely crucial to increase the weight loads incrementally, week to week. Now, if you're an experienced trainee, you're not just going to be able to throw on, an additional 10, 20 pounds per exercise per week. I mean, that'd be insane. But incremental changes of even 1 1/4 pounds that you can do with magnets, or 2.5 pounds, it adds up, over the course of a 6-week program, especially if you're trying to gain muscle and lose body fat at the same time. The loading, the tension, the amount of benefit you're getting out of every rep has a huge impact on the bottom line. So please email me at scott@infinityfitness.com so that we can discuss your specific situation and goals and discuss how I can be of help. Again, that's Scott, SCOTT, at Infinity, INFINITY, fitness.com.